Welcome to the Galen Trombley Show. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the episode. You can follow me on social media at Galen Trombley. I hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Please hold for a very important message. Lightspeed sequence initiated. How may I help you?
Bonjour.
Security breach.
The truth shall set you free. Awesome. It's a miracle.
Stabilize. 3, 2, 1. Mission complete.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Lock and load.
All right, welcome everybody. Episode 245, Galen Trombley Show. One of my favorite guests, all around good dude. You might have seen him, heard of him, probably a bunch of other things, but Michael S. Cashman, Town Supervisor, or Plattsburgh Town Supervisor, Town of Plattsburgh Supervisor.
It can be set up.
We can rotate that around.
Yeah. The title itself is Supervisor, but most people truncate it to Plattsburgh Town Supervisor or Town of Plattsburgh Supervisor.
Yeah. But whatever the title is, he's a good dude. He's here. We're going to talk a lot about Plattsburgh because I know they have some investment opportunities, which I can't wait to dive into because I think Mike's besides talking about Michigan, Mike's bringing me some good stuff. There's Michigan in there.
There is a Michigan in there, of course.
Literally, the first page you open it up was a Michigan.
That's part of our story.
That's it. So, Mike, what's been going on? I guess people who don't know you, can we give us a quick elevator pitch? Because you've been on before, so I don't want to...
Sure. Funny enough, in about 2 weeks or so, I'm going to be celebrating my 20th college anniversary, for homecoming. I've been in Plattsburgh for about 24 years now. Came to the North Country as a transplant from Massachusetts. Came here to do my undergraduate. Did my undergraduate in speech communication, marketing, public relations. Stayed, did my master's in counseling. And then worked at SUNY Plattsburgh for about 11 years, and then got into local politics. That's really the short version of it.
And so November, what's the date this year? Election day?
November. I'm going to say it wrong. It's November 7th.
Okay. Oh, it's the latest it can be.
Yeah, Tuesday, November 7th.
It's the first Tuesday, but that's technically the latest election can be, right? I think that's like a thing because it's the first Tuesday of the month.
Yeah,
so,
it's the first Tuesday, so it's
so Wednesday must be the first.
Yes, so yeah. November 7th.
There we go. So, is this your third term?
This is my third, and it will be my final term as Plattsburgh Town Supervisor.
I was going to ask because you've been consistent on that the last two podcasts.
I've been consistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell the reason.
I believe in term limits.
Okay.
I think it's healthy for democracy. I think it's healthy for organizations, for people. All you have to do is look at, D.C., for example, folks that are into their 90s and et cetera, but have had, 40, 50-year careers in these positions. And I'm not discounting that individuals haven't made contributions of either parties in those roles. But I think it's incumbent that we constantly are providing space for the next generation. It was something that really connected to my work when I was involved in the Adirondack Young Professionals Group. We need to continue to make space for the next generation. And the way that I look at it is, could someone come into the supervisor seat that's older than me? Yes. Could it be someone from a different political party? Sure. Could they be younger or what have you? Yeah, all that can happen. But it's about opening space to new views, new perspectives, and not becoming stagnant. And I like challenges as well. So I'm looking forward to some new challenges, when I get to that next chapter of my life.
Because I've had this conversation before, and I've heard it both ways. I think term limits across the board should be... Actually, the last podcast I had on, I think, was Jordan LeBlanc. You know Jordan? Mm-hmm. So me and Jordan were talking about the Supreme Court's lifetime appointment, which I also think is wrong too, because most local judicialships or whatever, those are, I might have said that wrong, but those are 12-year terms typically, I believe.
Yeah. So so here's the crazy part about all of this is it really isn't uniform across the board. President, there's term limits. There's some term limits for governor now. But for some of the judicial positions in New York State, for example, you time out at the age of 70, so it's not necessarily term limits; it's an age. Some professions, like pilots, for example, you can't continue in that capacity past a certain age.
Which I think they're just raising that now.
They are, and there's a variety of reasons for it, right? But I believe in term limits. A lot of people talk about term limits, and I have firmly felt like I need to, you don't just talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And that's why I've always been very transparent about it. And, I truly look forward to having these last 4 years ahead of me and finishing up some passion projects and buttoning some stuff down. But then I also look forward to, the new challenges that await me in the future.
When you took the position as supervisor, did you anticipate 12 years, or was it kind of, because obviously it's not set in stone. You got to do the running, you got to get one in the first and the second. But did you go in thinking like, I'm going to try for 3 terms, or was that more of like maybe at the end of the first term and you ran again and won, you're like, I'm probably going to stick with just 2 or just 3? I mean,
yeah. So right at the beginning, I said I would do no more than 3. Okay, so that I defined the 12-year. No more than 12 years, no more than 3 terms as the cap when I jumped into this at the very beginning. But I also was very direct with folks saying that this is a family decision. Olivia and I needed to have some conversations about me running the first time. I evaluated that again with her during, as I was approaching my second term, and did it again for this last one. And what I've really, really appreciated was the full-throated support of her, friends and family and community members that have said, hey, we want to see you continue to do this, and not just based on one political affiliation. I've had people that are Democrats, Republicans, working families, conservatives, independents that have all said, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing it for as long as you want to do it. And for as long as I want to do it is no more than 3 terms.
No, like I said, I think you've done great. And I'm not a big political person. I just always like to I think I really I remember Gary Douglas telling me this. He's like, I support, was it the party of the North Country or whatever, whoever's going to support the North Country. And I think that's me. It's like, just, I think if someone's doing the right thing, like, and they embrace it and are putting the time in, because, too, it's like, it's a big time commitment. So you got to have someone that's going to go in there that has the capability and is going to put the time in and is not, I think you have to be fully committed, which I feel that you are. So
you know what? Someone had said this to me recently, and they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't be talking about how you're only going to do 3 terms because then people will be mad if you want to run for another 4." I'm like, well, I go back to something that my grandfather taught me many, 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 many years ago, and that's if you don't lie, you don't have to remember. And what I mean by that is I really mean what I'm talking about. And I often tell people that Olivia and I don't agree 100% of the time. I'm sure you and your wife and you and your parents and friends and neighbors don't agree 100% of the time. I'm going to be straight with people right from the get-go. I'm not a smoke blower. There's a lot of people that are politicians that will tell you whatever you want to hear in the moment. That's not my style. I'd rather tell you what you need to hear and harness, the model that I like to use, and that's the listen, learn, and lead approach. I've listened to a lot of people. I've learned a lot of information, and I'm really appreciating the opportunity to lead this community with a great team. But the first 2 hallmarks never go away when you're leading as well. You still have to continue to listen and learn.
How I was going to say, your approach to leadership, because how many people, obviously the town of Plattsburgh, so you're I guess the leader of this whole group of or organization of people, how many people are under your leadership?
Sure.
Say that.
So there's a couple of different ways to look at it, and I like to take that question and provide an opportunity to teach people, because the title of supervisor, when you go into most businesses and you say, I want to speak to the supervisor, right? You kind of want to talk to the person where the buck stops. In local government, there are other elected officials that have a great purview and oversight of their individual units. So, for example, we have a highway superintendent. The highway superintendent really supervises the purview of all things related to highway. The town board works as as a unit together. So a town supervisor really kind of has three roles: a chief executive officer, the chief financial officer, and a legislator as well. And an example of, take Chris Rosenquist as the mayor. He only votes during times when you need to break a tie. Mm-hmm. I actually vote on all legislative items every single meeting. So it's part of one of my roles and responsibilities. So I chair the meeting, I vote on meetings, but I'm also serve as the chief financial officer and really the chief elected official.
Is there 6? How many people are on the town council? Is it 5 or 6?
So it's 5 complete board. No, it's 5 board members complete. So it's myself included. So there's
Gotcha.
four council members. But to go back to that overall number, we have approximately 70 team members, or 70 staff members.
Wow. Okay.
And we punch well above our weight, as Garrett Douglas would say, making a positive impact across the board. But we have a number of other elected officials that are part of our team. Jackie Ballou is our tax receiver, and Katie Colucci is our town clerk. Greg Brunell is our highway superintendent. And then downstairs we have our 2 justices, Jim Joyce and Chris Michaud. And then the board members are Tom Wood, and Dana Isabella, Barb Hebert, Chuck Kostick, and myself. And but we work in concert with the professional staff and the team members that I would dare say every single day they try to do better than the day before. And we're not perfect. There's lots of imperfections, and there's still a lot of bureaucracy in the system of government. But local government is the most accessible government to the people. I do a lot of business in the produce aisle of Hannaford.
Yeah, you've said that. Yeah. So what's your approach to leadership? You mentioned like listening and stuff, but if you, if we were to go and observe you for a week, in and around the offices and stuff, how do you go about your day to day? Who do you check in with? What do you oversee? How do you structure your communication? How do you structure your day, your focuses? So the model that I subscribe to is servant leadership. I really believe in the purpose of service to others and to the service of good causes and good things. One of the things that I implemented very early on when I became town supervisor is I do rounds every morning. Okay, grab a cup of coffee. I'm a big coffee fan, and I go around and I touch base with each of the department heads and, by the nature of it, members that are in those individual units as well. We chat for a little while, see what's going on, and that's not to be our micromanager. What I had shared with one of the department heads that had inquired said, "Are you going to do this every day?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Because I have information that you need, and you have information that I need, and I don't want either of us to be the last person to know." And I think it's a great opportunity to share and to collaborate. One of the other models that I believe in is communication, collaboration, and compromise. And those three C's work in tandem with one another, but there's also models within it that I think provide a higher level of productivity. Take our department heads and the staff members there. They're the subject experts, right? I'm not putting in the new water line. I'm not going in and checking the codes, if the fire code is being addressed correctly. I'm not the person that's looking at, the new plans for the business. What I need to do is to make sure that we've identified resources and that we've assembled the right team. It's kind of like, you think of a Marvel superhero movie as making sure that you assemble a group of people, because even superheroes have their weaknesses, right? Mm-hmm. So it was bringing the strongest team together with the resources to try to move projects and things forward. So when you, and ask Billy this, but same thing, it's like when you, let's say we just stretch out for a year, or however you do plans, a couple years down the road, or maybe for 4 years for you, what do you try to put emphasis on and focus on? And the reason I say this is in our line of work or whatever, there's I wear a hat of, I call in business, on business. And on business meaning I'm trying to improve the systems and everything. And that requires way more effort on my part. and it's the thing that I need a lot of uninterrupted hours in a row to do because I got to get in headspace, figure stuff out. And then on the business is like the stuff that, or in the business is like the stuff that hits me. So it's like, basically responding to things that are coming at me each day. I have my master goal plan of a year or 3 years or 5 years does not include the day-to-day stuff. It's typically the bigger projects that I'm trying to work on and focus on. And I find that one of the biggest challenges is trying to block that time off and really commit to focusing on that time, which we've gotten much better at. But sometimes, you got a million things coming at you day to day that you got to try to fit those in. Now, when I asked Billy, he's like, well, we kind of have a plan, and then it basically gets thrown out the window in like 3 days because things come in so quick. Are you guys like that, or do you find that, hey, we have a game plan and we really structure these big, whether it's, I don't know how many big projects you try to accomplish in a year, but I mean, what's your planning look like? And how do you maintain that focus throughout the year when, again, I know a lot of stuff gets thrown at you or comes at you quick?
Sure. So one of the philosophies that we've adopted as a team is that we plan the work and work the plan. And what I mean by that is that plans have an evergreen nature to it. They're going to get recalibrated, but without a plan, you're completely lost. Without any roadmap, you don't know where you're going to go or where you're at, right? So to plot an A point and a B point at least gives you a north, east, west, south direction. So we do that. And then we recalibrate to the environment that's around us. And there's also lots of different plans within the environment because there's multiple units within the town. There's a water department, there's a highway department, there's a codes and zoning department, there's what the town board is doing, what the planning board is doing. So we're firing on all cylinders, and we constantly have to be looking at the dashboard to make sure that we've got enough gas in the tank to make sure that we can get there. But then we also have to make sure that we stop the car from time to time, let people stretch their legs, right? Maybe reposition who's, in the front of the car, and just changing positions. But my favorite word, since I've gotten into this position, is recalibration, because I think often people are afraid that change will be too disruptive. I'm a firm believer of keep what works, fix what doesn't. But sometimes a recalibration may only be 3%, but that 3% could really, really change the productivity, the environment, the mood, the tone and tenure of what's going on. And also expect that if you're failing, okay, pause for a moment and recalibrate. And I have had lots of failures. The team has had lots of failures. But you have to keep in mind that there's always tomorrow.
Yeah. So, and I guess when it comes to trying to keep the focus of, let's say, 70 people on, and everybody's got, like you said, kind of different goals and stuff, but is this part of the morning, kind of your loop in the morning? Is this something that you have regular standing meetings with department heads or all hands kind of meetings, or like how does, I guess, the checkpoints on that, and what's your involvement with, say, the town supervisor or the town clerk, or each individual department?
Yeah. So, like many organizations, there are certain events and activities that drive day-to-day operations, and then kind of quarterly expectations and yearly expectations. A budget takes up a large amount of our time, because even though we may be wrapping up one budget, we're already starting to formulate the budget for the following year as we're working through one. For instance, we use a modified zero-based budgeting, so we really kind of back it out. That allows us to create some priority pipelines. But we work in a very collaborative approach. All of our departments are working with one another in some form or fashion, which really helps us optimize the products and productivity that we put out there for the community, the residents, the taxpayers, also the visitors to the town. There's a reason that we are the economic engine of the North Country, is because we have many publics that we're serving, taxpayers, of course, residents, visitors, but we're also the home to many industries that become employers for people that live in Peru or Beekmantown and stuff like that. So there's a lot of activities to, I just, I think for myself, work a lot with our volunteer fire departments. We have 5 volunteer fire departments. They have a lot of activities. So those get assigned into my schedule pretty regularly. There's other activities that are going on that they get planted in my calendar. But for the first year, I really didn't take a vacation. And I told Olivia I needed to live the experience to know what really was a true priority. So I really tried not to miss anything. Now it's still pretty rare, but if I'm not at an event, someone knows that there's probably a conflicting activity. Nothing drives me crazier than when people go to events and they're there for 5 minutes and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then it's like, if you've been invited to an event, you should make an attempt to be present and to be part of that at a level of which the invitation was extended to you. And that's what I try to do.
Well, I was telling Billy that. So we had another shameless plug for a golf tournament for next year. But Billy came and he shows up at 8 in the morning. Well, before that, 7:30 in the morning to hit a golf ball. Like literally, that's it. And I kind of I talked to him about that. And same with you. It was like you guys are both very well seen. You're at almost every event. Even if you're like there's a press conference, it's like you're probably going to see Billy. You're probably going to see Cashman. Chris does a great job about it. Gary does a great job. So you start seeing, Mark. You see these figureheads that are showing up, and I've heard it's funny because you hear people complain, well, they're always there, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, what's the alternative? You don't see them. And they said, in my opinion, someone that's, again, you're serving, you said servant leadership, but you're elected, you're serving, people, constituents, whatever. I think seeing you as a level of presence, I also think it adds a little level of stability when you can look and you see like, okay, we have a very cohesive group of local leaders and I feel work well. I feel like collaborate pretty well. And I think, what we see, maybe, out in the public, I feel is very similar to behind the closed doors in the office. Like you said, transparency. And I feel like that's over the last handful of years, especially in a political world where that doesn't seem to be the case. I feel like our region does do an exemplary job of doing that. And I think, but that's full circle. So I think, seeing you at an event, I think, I've run into, whether it's a county fair, I see you at, just at a parade or a random just event, making the time to do that, I think goes a long ways. I know it's tiring because you're always going, and I'll drive by your house and I'll see your car there at like maybe 1 PM, and then I won't see it again until like maybe I'll come home at 8 and it's not, you know what I mean? Like I just know you're bouncing around and doing stuff. So I guess from a scheduling perspective, with so many people, offering for you to show up and you obviously graciously taking that time to go do it, like how do you structure majority of your day when you have a lot on your plate? Obviously I know you have a team behind you and kind of a, I guess supervisor, or what do you call that? Like maybe your little, like, what's your, not like office of the CEO you hear a lot, but like what's your office of the supervisor?
Yeah, office of the supervisor.
Okay. So I know you have some people right there that help, so.
Yeah, and it's, and I've jokingly said this to Assemblyman Jones, and he's a good friend, and he's got a great team. I don't have a staff like Billy does, but Billy also has a district that is huge,
massive,
but I also try to remind people when I'm out in the public, and I always appreciate the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever the comments are. I always want to encourage people that I believe in approachable leadership. I think it's really important, and that's why, I go to as many events and activities as I can. But my team does just Herculean efforts of work. They're just a talented group of people. From the work like Jess Koga does to Michigan Month. She just does a phenomenal job in that, to, again, the folks in the water department that if there's a water main break, they're the ones that are out there at 2:00 in the morning, right? And I could go literally department by department. My staff for the town of the supervisor's office is myself and an executive secretary. And Emily does a remarkable job keeping us on task, moving forward, keeping the town board agenda. That's one of the biggest responsibilities, truthfully, is, we have 2 work sessions a month. We have 2 town board meetings, and that's where we're adopting the abstract, where we can pay checks and our bills, adopting policies and resolutions and local laws and all the stuff that local government does. The community outreach is part of the job, but that's just a piece of it.
How do you recharge? I don't want to say burn, like how you get burned out, but like how do you just kind of, like you said, vacation? I follow you on social media. It seems like you and Olivia do a lot of, kind of day trips, which look pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's your, on weekends you watch shows, binge watch stuff? Do you just kind of hang out? Do you do you have hobbies? Like how do you just kind of recharge the engine?
Yeah. So it's funny. I'm a workaholic, to be truthful. I always have been. And even when I worked at the college, I enjoy being in the work environment where I can feel that I'm being productive and putting out a product that is serving a greater cause than just sitting on the couch type of thing. But there are things that I do to recharge. I almost every day go home for a brief period of time. We have 3 dogs. Don't live that far from the office, so get home, throw the tennis ball with them, relax for a couple of minutes, kind of just decompress, go back to the office. That's one way. Every night, for the most part, I unwind by watching some type of Netflix comedian. Kathleen Madigan is one that I really enjoy. I'll watch a lot of the same comedians over and over because it's just more about just kind of.
Do you have a favorite one?
Powering down.
Is she your favorite one?
She's one of my favorite ones.
Okay.
I've got sucked into Suits on Netflix. Olivia and I have been watching that. And not to say that I watch, a ton of, movies and things like that. So a lot of times what's nice about Netflix, right, is you can be sitting there and you can be slightly engaged with that, but then you can also maybe be doing paperwork or doing something else if you need to. Yeah.
And regarding, so I was just kind of laughing because like the last 3 nights I've had to work late. So I'm just sitting there in my chair doing work, and I have just mindless like old comedies that I've seen a million times I don't have to pay attention to, and it passes the time beautifully. So I want to dive into, well, actually, before we dive into this, where's it good? Because I know you're big on, what is it called? Not staycation. What do you call them? Like your day trips?
Oh, backyard adventures? Backyard adventures is what we call them.
So what's your, because I love seeing it, because you go to places I don't even know that are around here, which is wild because I'm from this area. What's some like hidden gems in the area that people would not know about?
I think,
or that surprised you.
Yeah, I think some people know about this, but not enough people know about it. I just had a friend of mine actually text me this week and was like, "Where do you get those famous pies?" Noonmark Diner in Keene is one of my absolute favorite places to go to. And some people still don't know this, but I have celiac, so I can't eat gluten. It's not a fad or something that I choose to do. And we'll go down to Noonmark Diner. They have great gluten pies and gluten-free pies. Great breakfast place. And that's one of our backyard adventures. Out towards the Wild Center. I don't think enough people in Plattsburgh have gone out there to adventure. And the town of Plattsburgh, for example, is, we have 11 parks. I mean, I love spending times in our parks. You know, so there's just, it's about just taking half a day or a day in the weekend if you can, and just not going too far. A lot of times these little adventures that we do are within 90 minutes to maybe 2.5 hours, and just kind of plotting around the North Country.
Yeah. The parks and stuff with kids, like we're trying to touch them all. We're trying to just kind of go to all of them. Let the kids get excited, especially then you start going to like school playgrounds and just like we're trying to hit the playgrounds. But like the one down, the little nature walk down in Morrisonville.
Oh, Lapeer Lane. Yeah,
like that's a great little spot. People haven't walked. It's quick. Like you can walk probably around in like 10-15 minutes, but do a couple laps there. It's very peaceful.
We've also spent a considerable amount of energy with Aaron and Jordan, who are managing our Parks and Recreation program, but we invested new money in playground equipment, about $150,000, maybe a little bit more, in the Cumberland Head Park. We just put new equipment at Make Courier, And that really was focused on individual.
Tom Miller one?
Yeah,
Miller
off
Road?
Tom
Okay.
Miller Road.
Yep.
We put the reader boards in for individuals that are on the spectrum, for example. And then we also did an investment in Treadwell's Mills. So what we're actually working on right now is a master parks and recreation plan, so that eventually all parks will have some upgrades and amenities and services within that. But we truly believe in 4 seasons of recreation. We have a great recreation program, again, led by Aaron and Jordan, that are from youth to seniors. I mean, from soccer to basketball to the Senior Fitness for Life program. We've got a lot going on.
So, Mike, this packet you gave me, which I think is awesome already. So, Highway Plattsburgh. I know you got some other stuff here, but Town of Plattsburgh investment opportunities. So I'm gonna leave this open to you and kind of see what your obviously right there, real estate right in the front. But what's your give us an intro on this.
Sure. So for your listeners, you can actually see the book that we're talking about if you go to the Town of Plattsburgh's website. And it's a developer's guide. And this was actually developed in partnership with the Clinton County Board of Realtors. They were able to help us secure a grant. And what we like to tell people is the Town of Plattsburgh is open for business. And I'll give you a couple of statistics in a moment, but this particular development guide is focused on the town center because we are the key economic center for Clinton County. And within the town center, there's about 2,000 acres in the town center. And we adopted a smart growth plan that provides for in-growth development. And as we were learning about some things, it's the busiest commercial corridor north of Albany. With over 320 businesses, there are about 5,000 jobs that are in that area, and there are over 36,000 vehicle trips per day in the main corridor in the town center. To put it in perspective, Galen, that's busier than Wolf Road in Albany.
I remember you saying that, and that's that's the photo we're looking at right here, right?
Yeah.
You say so, which I think is a staggering fact because I remember as a kid when you used to think like Albany, like Wolf Road was one of the bigger corridors with like shopping and convenient box stores and things like that and restaurants. So now. And I've said this before, and again, I'm probably going to be repeating a lot of what we talked with Billy, but one of the things that I remember, or I talked to him about, is that if we were to stretch out a timeline, and see, this is what's going to happen to my OCD. This one thing never stays up, and it falls down. That's why I don't look at it. I make you look at it. But I just noticed off the corner of my eye. But the whole idea is like if you were to stretch out, and let's just say for you 8 years, and then maybe even going back to 20 years that you've been in Plattsburgh, or 24 years. So if you take that amount of time, think of all the change that happened. And I'm going to say, 18-year-old Michael Cashman comes to Plattsburgh, and he's an undergrad. Like what Plattsburgh looked like then to where it is now is leaps and bounds different. And if you stretch that timeline out, 24 years, which is a chunk of time, but it's not a lifetime, I would look at that as a lot can happen if people's perspective was just pulled out a little bit larger. Meaning that I feel, and again, I want to hear your opinion on this. I feel most people, and this is society in general, people want instant gratification. They want it now. They want things done fast. I think if most good things take time, and I feel like where I think hopefully you're going is that you're going to look at something now that's probably in this booklet that 2 to 5 to 10 years from now is going to be like, oh my God, remember we were trying to get that passed or trying to get that done? And I feel like a lot of things right now that are in the town of Plattsburgh that were never around when I was a kid. And again, I'm not a super old person, but my memory is like, God, I remember when that was just a bunch of trees, or I remember when that was that dilapidated building. And now you start to see just that little square you're talking about has grown massively. And I go to Chipotle more than a human probably should. There's places where I remember Chipotle, first time I went was in New York City. And I was like, oh my God, I've never heard of this place. And then I used to have to go to Albany and it was always a treat. And now I'm like, well, I get it every week. So, but when you look at things and you stretch that out, timeline wise, I think a lot has happened. And I'm even going from when I got out of college, which was, almost, probably 12 years ago or so. A lot has happened since then, even just, the college in general, but surrounding areas. So if you were to, what's your thought on now pulling out 8 years of being a supervisor, then pulling out 24 years of being a North Country resident? Like, how have things changed, and what's your perspective on the change?
Yeah, I think growth has accelerated and that we've been on a positive trajectory. It's about harnessing opportunity. And let me just share a couple of statistics with you that maybe help conceptualize to people that are listening. So we look at dashboards like that. What have the last couple of years, what the last 5 years looked like? So between 2019 and 2023, and we're not done yet, right? In that period of time, total square footage in commercial construction has been 963,000 square feet in the town of Plattsburgh alone.
Yeah.
For
people that don't know, that's a lot.
That's
sizable amount.
That's a huge amount.
Yeah.
And then total number of building permits over 2,000.
Is that commercial building? Is that residential commercial?
It's the drivers of the economy. Okay. And then for this year, okay, to put it in perspective, for 2023, proposed commercial construction, 521,000 square feet.
Wow.
Okay.
That's new.
That's new.
Yep.
So there's an acceleration of growth. There's a strong trajectory, and I think a lot of times people think that the town is only focused on bringing in chains or hotels or other businesses. No, it's about supporting businesses that are here currently, celebrating the fact that businesses change hands maybe to the second or third generation. But finding opportunities for a mixed economy, right? We need chains, we need hotels, we need commercial, we need restaurants, but we also need residential. Total number of proposed residential units for 2023 is over 259. So we're a community that's growing. So we also need to harness opportunity to bring people here to live, and we need people across the spectrum of affordable housing, in what people would identify in the language of affordable housing, to market rate housing. We need it all. And we're firing on all cylinders. So when you're asking me what does the next 24 years look like to even the next 8 years, is there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of growth that will continue to occur. And it's about, as I said before, we believe in plan the work the plan. And we have a lot of plans, and we are meticulously going through it. And my grandfather used to say, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time." Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing. We're just biting at it day after day.
So regarding, I want to talk commercial first, and then I want to go residential.
Sure.
So commercial, like I said, with all the buildings going up, and I know a lot of these, kind of down even where you are. There's a handful that just popped up along there. Where are you seeing most of these buildings popping up, and what kind of businesses are going into those units or commercial spaces?
Yeah. So again, it's a split. We're seeing new businesses that are expressing an interest in the town of Plattsburgh. The Development Corporation, or the TDC, mm-hmm. has a crazy occupancy rate right now, and that's why they continue to build new space to rent and to get out there for new businesses. But we're seeing expansion. Monahan Medical built a fairly new building mm-hmm. on the old county airport a couple of years ago. But we're also seeing things like Mediska mm-hmm. grow. And Schluter, for example, which is a workforce of 800 people, maybe a little bit more, continues to see significant growth. I mean, the joke is if you go through that end of town, people call it Schluterville. I mean, it's a very large campus. Mm-hmm. They're a legacy business. But we also have to continue to celebrate businesses like Penny's Homestyle Cooking, who in fact I just had an opportunity to celebrate yesterday with what we call a Supervisor citation. She's raised $20,000-$30,000 for the North Country Honor Flight as a local restaurant, and one of the hardest businesses to be in is small business. But then as a restaurant with overhead and staffing and stuff like that, mm-hmm. And yet, time after time, it's these businesses that continue to give back to the community, whether it be North Country Honor Flight or to the local booster clubs, to all the local fundraisers and things like that. And I know it means something to you. Local matters, right? Mm-hmm. Local matters, and we We need to have a mixed economy. We need to bring some of the outside in, but we also have to celebrate what we have here too.
Yeah, and I think that, I look at, they obviously the idea of like local matters. I think people kind of get it. It's pretty much said in 2 words, but I think not even just the money aspect. Like I think a lot of it is, being a small business owner, and you've spoken to hundreds of small business owners. It's like you realize that it's tough, especially when you're dealing with stuff, and not everybody has the resources or maybe the emergency funds that some of these businesses have, and obviously things that pop up, whether it be COVID, or it could just be different economic swings or different, and you're trying to weather these storms, and most of it falls on a handful of people trying to battle against whatever they're up against. And I think it takes a rare person to do that, or a rare breed of people. But I think even if you just support someone, and obviously we're seeing like Margaret Street being torn up, and they're trying to promote like those businesses that are obviously affected by it. But you look at that, like just going, and spending money helps. But I said just the support of even just like showing up and offering encouraging words, or even just trying to connect people. Like that's one of the things I love doing is, if I can help someone with a connection that's going to help them, as I know, you're very well connected. It's like it goes a long ways, where people think that it's like a monetary thing. I said a lot of it's just support. It's like supporting friends. Like if you support your friends and you have their back, or you're going to be there in hard times or offer advice, like that's just as good as anything else you can give. And I think the idea behind that is like there's so many good people up in our area. People have been here forever, imports, everything. Like you keep adding to it, but really at the end of the day, it's like when people come up here and you ask most people, there's a lot of people up here. If you asked them where they would live, they would say here. Like they don't want to move. They have no issue. They have no reason to move. And I think the more that people embrace that, realize that there's opportunity, that there is, like anything else, there's a hill to climb. I want to say it's David versus Goliath, but when you take a big city or a big metropolitan area and you take a smaller rural area, it's like, yeah, we have some things that are, I would say we're up against, but we do have our own advantages that we have to lean into and, again, kind of punch above our weight class. Yep. And I think if you really take everybody and you row in the same direction and you stay positive, and, you're always going to have the negative people. But I said, if you can kind of block out that noise and really try to find the good people in the area that are, supporting you, and you could be doing something that someone who was a supporter now doesn't like, and then they start turning on you, probably a bad term, but it's maybe offer less support to you. That could deflate kind of take the wind out of your sails, where if you really surround yourself with people that kind of echo what you stand for, you're going to find that there is a lot of really good people around here, and there's a lot of people that also want to see you succeed, not at their detriment. It's not a zero-sum game. It's like we're both trying to I talk about the pie. We're all trying to make the pie bigger. We're not trying to make our piece bigger. So, and our piece naturally will get bigger if we all make the pie get bigger. And I think that's kind of the nerdy, like in the weed version behind local matters. But it's the idea of just supporting people that are trying to do good things in the area, and also giving people grace that it's hard to do those things because life's challenging. And we also don't know. This is something that I always keep in the back of my mind. Like, I don't know what's going on in your life or their life, or like, and they don't know what's going on in my life. And my issues are magnified to me. Your issues are magnified to you. So then you have to go in the context of like, give people grace and the benefit of the doubt that they're trying the best they can, and then offer support versus trying to have conflict. And I think the more we can build each other up, we just kind of keep, the cream rises to the top, but the idea is to try to bring as many of that cream to the top. Does that make sense?
I totally agree.
It's a weird analogy.
No, I agree. And there's 2 things that I would abstract from or pull out of that. One is, I think one of the biggest value statements that you can make in your life is where you choose to live. Mm-hmm. I really do believe that. Mm-hmm. And it's not just, and I think sometimes, particularly in politics, people say, I was born and raised, and I was a native of this place. And that is important. It really is important. But those individuals that choose to live in a community, and those individuals that choose to lean in and be involved in their community, because I have a really good friend that's lived all over the world. I mean, from France to Germany to Canada, and she goes, no matter where I live, I'm always amazed at how many couch sitters there are. And couch sitters there are.
Oh,
and what she means by that is people that just sit on the couch and they become keyboard warriors or complainers, or they're like, there's nothing to do here. Mm-hmm. It's like, there are a lot of things to do in Plattsburgh, for example. It may not be your bag. It may not be the thing that you are most energized by, but there are a lot of things. And we continue to try to build on that energy. But, I always tell people we're a 4-season location. Right. And winter's a long month, or we have some long months of winter if you can't find something to do. But that's why the town of Plattsburgh invests in our parks. That's why we do, sports and recreation programs. It's why we continue to try to partner with individuals to have a diverse economy and stuff like that. But we're also very proud of the community that we have. And that's why we want to bring new businesses in so that we can bring more people in, whether they be tourists, and use Plattsburgh as a jumping off point to Lake Placid, for example, or the thing that I'm really excited about, and you'll have to bridle me on this, is I'm beyond excited that next April we are going to be in the path of totality for the total solar eclipse.
April 8th?
April 8th.
Yeah. I'm actually really looking forward to that.
And I mean, I've had a countdown on my phone for 5 years almost. I mean, truly. I mean, and people, when I started talking about this 5 years ago, people are like, "You are out of your mind." I'm like, well, I know I'm out of my mind, but on this particular thing, this is a big deal. And I mean, the amount of phone calls and emails and things that we've been getting over the last, let's say 6 to 8 months in particular, people have been like, oh yeah, we want to do some buses up your way. And, we're from the Northeast, out in the Boston area and da-da-da-da. So I think it's going to be a really big thing for us. But it's also our opportunity to use it as an introduction to why people should come back, right?
Yeah, love it.
And experience us.
The first person that told me that was Courtney Meisenheimer, because she was doing it for the city too, and she was talking about it. And I looked up on the map, and we are when they have a stretch of what's going to be hit, we're in the center of that.
Dead center.
You can't get, and I don't know where that would go on the latitude line if we have if it's better to be because we're about 45 degrees, 44. If we're at that latitude, if that makes it better than because I know it goes through Tennessee and it kind of comes up through Texas and that way. But I don't know. I'm excited. I think it'll be cool. But so regarding the development and trying to get businesses in, do you field a lot of calls? Do you find that? I should say that. Is it more inbound inquiries, or do you find it's more outbound, trying to shake the leaves a little or shake the trees and try to make things happen? Or is it a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of both. And I think it's important to note that what the town of Plattsburgh has done and continues to do is to work in partnership with our economic friends like the Chamber of Commerce, the Clinton County IDA, the TDC, et cetera. And this developer's guide is not to be in competition with what they're doing. What we're trying to do is to focus on what the town has for offerings and things. But here's a fun little fact. The median age of Plattsburgh is 38. 25% of the town and city population between the ages of 20 to 34. Plattsburgh is young, and it's poised for growth. So when you're asking, what does it look like in the next 8 years? What does it look like in the next 24 years? We need to continue to harness that energy and to continue to build out the Plattsburgh and the greater Plattsburgh region, the Adirondack coast, as a place that not only do we want, but we really can dream for. And, some of those things may not come to reality, but if we start putting a plan together, as I said before, we can recalibrate as we go. And there's a lot of opportunity here.
Well, have you ever heard the quote, most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10?
Yeah.
And that's what I always look at things when there's big, kind of big things that are happening, and you're like, oh my God, I can't do that. I'm like, well, like you said, eat the elephant one bite at a time. And eventually that elephant will be eaten.
And we tell people that we believe that we're globally significant and regionally exceptional. I mean, we have a lot of businesses here that have their North American headquarters here. We have a significant mixed economy because of our Canadian neighbors. We love to have them come down. In fact, if you look at the water tower, we have, welcome, bienvenue, because we appreciate that relationship that we have. So as you go through the developer's guide, you'll notice some, intriguing things that we didn't shy away from putting a picture in there of snow, right? As I jokingly say, we put the burr in the berg. Winter is a thing here. So we have to own that. history is. We're also very proud to be the first Purple Heart town in the North Country. The Michigan, right? It's buried within our culture here, and harnessing these fun little things. And also, it's a great quality of life. We have great institutions for higher education, whether it be SUNY Plattsburgh, Clinton Community College, but then there's also CV Tech. We need to continue to expand on the trades and continue to elevate, our region. So this developer's guide gives a snapshot into what's going on in the town, the opportunities, but it's also an invitation to come build with us, not just within the next 6 months, not within the next year, but over the next, as you kind of alluded to, the next 8 years, the next 20 years. The town has invested significantly in its water infrastructure. We believe that water infrastructure is about health and safety, sustainability, and economic development. Where you see businesses go, where you see people go, is where there are public utilities, and where you see infrastructure being maintained and developed. And the town of Plattsburgh has great veins for our water infrastructure. So as we did this developer's guide, the other thing that we did though was, I'm sure you've been at like a party, or you've talked with a colleague, at the water cooler type thing, and you've said, oh, I wish we had such and such a business, or I wish we had such and such a thing here in Plattsburgh. So we launched a community development survey, put it out to the public directly, and asked them, what are the types of businesses that you would like to see? And you're getting one of the first peeks into this. The top business choices, as it stands right now, is Trader Joe's, Olive Garden, Golden Corral, Dave & Buster's, and Mini Golf. But furthermore, when asked about the sectors they desire, in sequence of preference was indoor recreation, retail, dining, youth activities, and arts and culture. Breaking down these respondents, 53% were nearby residents, so residents outside of the town of Plattsburgh. 44% hailed from the town, about 1.2% from Vermont, and then we had about 0.5% were Canadian neighbors. And to date, we've had over 3,000 responses. And that survey continues to be open, because what we're doing is we're culling that information so we can strategically use it. We are sending this developer's guide to 300 site selection professionals, and we are also sending it to 31 strategically identified businesses that have come from the survey results that people have recommended, and also looking at the demographics and the types of locations that people go to, or their sister companies. A lot of these companies have like a one-off, right, or a smaller version of itself. And while we're doing all of that, we continue to stay focused on a multifaceted portfolio that remains hyper-focused on residential units, and infrastructure, parks and rec. So as I like to say, we can chew gum and walk at the same time, but this developer's guide is going to be some of the jet fuel helping us kind of capture the energy and reality of where we want to go in the next 20 years.
I mean, again, you being a town resident, is there anything that you would like to see? Like not Supervisor Cashman, but Plattsburgh resident Cashman. Like, is there anything that you would be like, I would really like to see this? Like, it's kind of like selfishly, like what would be something that you would...
Sure. Well, and it directly connects to one of the conversations we had earlier about backyard adventures. One of our favorite backyard adventures that we do too is we go down and we play mini putt in Lake Placid.
Yeah.
It's not
mini golf's great.
It's not a stone's throw away, but it's a little ways. But we used to have 2 mini golf places here in Plattsburgh. Now we have none.
Yeah.
So we have been trying to cultivate, either an opportunity for reinvestment in something here, or to have somebody, do something new and different right here in Plattsburgh. And I think it would kill. I think it would do very, very, very well.
Well, if you go down to Lake George, I feel there's like 5 of them, and they're all packed.
Yep.
And I think nostalgia for me is like as a kid. I mean, go to like Ponderosa, like we used to play the mini golf. It was so much fun, and whether you're having birthday parties or you just go there, and it doesn't. I mean, for a family, it doesn't take long to go through, and I love it. Yeah.
I also grew up in the Cape Cod area, and we used to go to, drive-in movie theaters all the time. And I know Rob Steele is trying to work on that. I applaud his efforts. Again, those are some examples of things that are, in motion, right? We're talking with a lot of people, and let me just tell you that as we put out this developers guide, because people will say, oh, well, you've identified these companies and these developers. We're having these same conversations with local developers, because as I like to say is, there may be someone here locally that can put a Plattsburgh or North Country spin on something and develop it here locally in a really unique way. But Plattsburgh is in a unique position. I don't care what people think of Chick-fil-A, but I'm just using this as an example. We had a Chick-fil-A before Albany did.
Yeah, that's wild.
Okay. Our Texas Roadhouse is one of the most profitable in their Northeast franchise. Plattsburgh does really well. Now, a lot of people will be like, yeah, but I don't like that business. But it's part of the mixed economy.
Yeah.
It's part of the larger portfolio that brings people into the region. And if people go to a hotel, they're going to restaurants. If people are at restaurants, they're shopping somewhere else. And, again, that's why one of my top 3 focuses continues to be housing, because we need to continue to be able to onboard new people into this community, but we also need to have affordable housing for people that are living here now.
So, before we can, what this right here, can you explain this section? I mean, what it is? I just read it, but the Planned Town Center.
Yeah,
kind of talk a little bit more about that first.
So the specific plan that became kind of the incubator, or it was a plan called Elevate Plattsburgh, and it was focused on the town center. A lot of times people called it Uptown. Well, there's downtown Plattsburgh, right, and then there's Uptown Plattsburgh, but for the town of Plattsburgh, that's our town center. That's, where all the hamlets kind of, surround and interconnect with the town center. And there was a lot of missed opportunity within the town center to activate that as a place where you could see more development and opportunity, even residents. There's not a lot of people that live within the town center. So what we did is we adopted a smart growth plan that is multimodal, so more walkable, allows, in the future, there's still work to do, don't get me wrong, bikeable, but also infill development that will allow for housing within the town center, and allow for property owners within the town center to activate it. Because we've all probably driven through the town center maybe at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and it starts to get dark, right? Well, imagine having a much more vibrant town center with more housing, with more mixed use. Well, it makes it more vibrant, but the other part to it is it adds to the economy. So you get home, you go to your apartment, maybe you walk your dog. While you're walking your dog, maybe you pop in and you grab a cup of coffee. Maybe you bring the dog home, and then maybe you decide to walk over to get dinner at a particular restaurant. So it's really about finding opportunities for a mixed economy.
And Mike, where's this? You said located on, like, where specifically would this be located? So is there like a specific area right now that's been proposed, or
there is, and really,
I don't know if it's like public knowledge yet.
No, it is, and
okay.
and I'm kind of teasing people a little bit on this, because I think sometimes people want the Cliff Notes and they only look at the Cliff Notes. Go and check out the development guide, and to put in perspective, though, it's 2,000 acres, so it's a rather large area, and it abuts up to so much opportunity. Here at the town of Plattsburgh, we're really proactive about taking a collaborative approach to laying the groundwork to modernize zoning and investing in infrastructure. And what makes us different than many other municipalities is that we have over 130 years experience combined for development, and my team, and that's inclusive of the planning department, the codes department, the water department. I mean, so when people come to us and say they want to do business, we stay solution focused. and no idea is too crazy. We want to sit down with people. We want to have those conversations, and then if for some reason we're not the right fit, we'll make appropriate referrals. I mean, I'm happy, to see that done, because it's a win for our entire region. I want downtown Plattsburgh to thrive, but I also want Beekmantown to thrive. I want Peru, Schuyler Falls in their own way. And right now, this is about harnessing the energy and the investments that we've made. We offer something very unique in a positive way, and that is that we are centrally located. We are not that far from Boston. We're only about 244 miles. We're 161 miles from Albany. We're close to Lake Placid. The ports of entry from Port of Oswego to Port from Ogdensburg, and our close proximity to the Canadian border. So that's why you're seeing industrial interest. It's why you're seeing commercial interest, and that's why we also have to make sure that we're harnessing opportunities for residential too.
Well, I also think the other cool thing about the town of Plattsburgh, just Plattsburgh in general, it is actually people that know the area, but it's geographically centered within our actual county. So when you start pulling from things, it's not like we're pretty much Plattsburgh centrally located to pretty much every place in the county, which that's not every single location. So whether in Champlain or Keysville, you can get to Plattsburgh pretty much in the same amount of time. And it kind of just is like, I always consider Plattsburgh like when I explain in real estate terms, it's a bullseye that's been cut in half, meaning east side or the right side of it's Lake Champlain, and then you can kind of go from like the city to the town and kind of go your rungs out. But ideally, it's kind of cool because it's centrally located there. Now, regarding obviously the residential side, and I'm going to give a little bit of boring real estate background, and then I'll talk with Mike about this. But we've basically been seeing a drop in homes for sale, what we call inventories, homes for sale in real estate. We've been seeing this trend basically since, I would say 2000, maybe 15, 16, that we started to see this slight decline in homes for sale and kind of where it was going to go. And for many years, I did videos kind of showing each month. I'm like, oh, this is going to get worse and worse and worse. And it was just it wasn't rocket science. You just looked at numbers. You could see where the trends were going. And I feel like, we ended up getting COVID kind of put real estate in a snow globe, shook it up, and then it was kind of crazy for a couple of years, and it's semi-regulated itself, but all it's done basically is people talk about the interest rates going up. Interest rates have gone up, which makes borrowing more expensive. Sure. But what it does when interest rates go up, the idea behind it is going to curtail the pricing. So price should start to regulate. Now, pricing has regulated. It hasn't been jumping up as much as it has been or was, but it hasn't gone down. And most people, I hear a lot, well, we're going to wait till the prices come down. And I'm like, there's nothing that I'm seeing that's going to show prices coming down anytime soon. And I think if you're going to hang your hat on that, and this is someone that's looking to purchase, like if you're going to purchase, buy now, because the value next year, 3 years, 5 years from now is going to be more expensive today. And you can never change the purchase value of a property. You can always change the interest rate. So if you're concerned by the interest rate you're basically locking in, meaning it can't go up on you. You can always make it come down by refinancing. Obviously, I know there's money and things involved in that, but the value of the home, if you buy it at, let's say, $250,000, that $250,000, whether you buy it now or 5 years from now, is reflective of what you get for $250,000. But I guarantee you, in the foreseeable future, that $250,000 is going to get you less and less, because that amount of money the houses are going to raise up. So when we couple that with where we're seeing inventory right now, the amount of homes on the market for sale, I think we're still down about 10% from last year. The amount of sales are down from last year, this is just a domino effect based on new listings. But the price point is actually up a couple percentage points because the lack of homes on the market is actually outperforming the climb in interest rates. People are wrapped up, I think, too much in the idea of interest rates because it's kind of what we see in the headlines on the news. The bigger detriment is not interest rates, it's the amount of homes on the market. So I would say that's kind of one of the reasons when you mentioned this, I was like, absolutely want to talk about it, because we have we've seen a low amount of homes. We do not see enough new construction going up for residential homes that are being sold. We do see people building homes for their personal use, but that's different than having homes built. Like, let's build a subdivision, or let's build 100 homes, and then which you typically see in like suburbia, America. Let's build those because those will sell out. Like those will, though, depending on location, which town of Plattsburgh is like, if you can pick a place in the county that is the most in-demand area it's town of Plattsburgh.
Sure. Well, and you're right about so much of that. So let's just use the town of Plattsburgh as an example. We're talking to somebody about doing a 75 lot subdivision, which
Love
is
it.
huge, right? Absolutely huge.
Well needed,
And when
yes.
you hear 75, you're like, oh, 75, 75. 75 is a lot. That's a big investment from the developer.
Well, I'm just going to pause you for a sec. So typically in our area, in a year, we have about 600 to 700 home sales. So you're talking right now 75. That's adding another 70. That's another 10%. We're down 10% in listings. So this will actually get us, that would be back even. But that's a big chunk.
Yeah. So we're talking to somebody about a 75 lot subdivision. We're talking with another individual that's looking at doing another handful of things. But the town of Plattsburgh is uniquely positioned too because we don't have a property tax. We do not have a property tax. So when you're a homeowner, you're paying county tax, you're paying school tax, and you're paying your special district tax, which I would dare say makes us very, very competitive, a lot more affordable than most. And yes, there's a highway tax that we have, which means that all residents and business owners pay, which is approximately like between 80 and 90 cents per thousand. But we have some of the best roads maintained of any municipality, in the area as well. So there are some expenses, but we, again, are very fiscally, conservative in the way that we drive our budgeting model, from the zero-based modified zero-based budgeting to what we're doing with infrastructure, how we're cultivating relationships. The town of Plattsburgh, when I first became supervisor, we launched the infrastructure study for the former county airport. It was the town of Plattsburgh that launched that, and we approached the county and we approached TEC and we said, there's 600 acres of property in the town of Plattsburgh because it's located in the town. And we're like, there's a lot of opportunity there, whether it be for industrial, whether it be for mixed use, whether it be for, residential. So we got to find a way to activate that. And we did. So we're working in a public-private partnership to collaborate to see the infrastructure go out into that property. Because right now, flat land is not enough for a developer to come in and say, oh yeah, it's cleared. Years ago, shovel-ready used to be this kind of theory of like, well, if it's flat, I could maybe build something there. Now what we need to make sure is that there are opportunities for connectivity of water, wastewater, electricity, broadband, that type of stuff. So in working with partnership, the former county airport, 600 acres, is going to be really activated moving forward. And I would say within that 20-year period that we're talking about, you're going to see a lot of growth and development out there because going back to the statistics I shared with you in our dashboards, we already see our trend lines. Year after year, we continue to see growth or holding our own where other municipalities, not just here in Clinton County or just here in the North Country, in New York State, are not punching above their weight this way.
Yeah, I think, again, like if you go by, like you said, fighting pound for pound, Plattsburgh is a very formidable leader in that department. And I think, when you start talking about new development, because that's, again, sound like a broken record, but like that was stuff I was saying for years. I said you're going to see two reasons that homes are going to become available. People are going to leave the area, and you're going to have these vacant homes that need to be filled. Not going to happen anytime soon, based on just what we've seen in population and stuff locally. Yeah. So the next step is we got to build the stuff, because again, like the idea of like build it, they will come. Well, I think most people are already here, and that they do want this. And if you do build it, you're just going to compound the more growth, because it's a flywheel. You bring people in, you have the businesses that come in, they fill those, they bring more opportunity. So it's like once you start getting that, the flywheel moving and spinning, then it just kind of every time. It's like I've used the analogy before. If anybody takes like a screw and you just like, if you ever follow the little, the track of the screw, every time you make a loop around, what do? You get higher or you go up higher. So think about that with anything that you do. If you just make one more circle around that screw, it's like every time I do it though, but I'm just getting more towards the end, but I get more, I advance more. And I think that's a lot to do with a lot of effort, is that if you can just keep beating the drum, taking the bite of the elephant kind of thing, that every time you do it, you gain so much more. Things happen, and that could just be knowledge. Like, how much more do you know just by all the steps you've done over 8 years versus year 1 versus year 8? You start learning all this, and everybody in the department, and you more intelligent and smarter and aware and more connected. And next thing you know, like all these things just spur on this like I said, compounded growth that happens much quicker than it did 10 years ago. And it's kind of like anything. I think it's just going to advance like wildfire over the next, hopefully, couple decades.
And it's exactly about that. It's continuous improvement, right? It's recalibrating as things occur. And there's so many different things in the various markets that are changing so quickly. Technology is ever changing, right? Different sectors. There are jobs that we can't even imagine in this moment that don't exist today that will be developed over the course of the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. So how do we make sure that we're in a position to recalibrate, to bring them into the fold of our community? But one of the things that I've found fascinating, I talk with a lot of our seniors in our community, and they're looking to downsize, but they're not necessarily looking to move into an apartment. They still want to own, but they don't want the house as large. So, but they're like, hey, the market, just, there isn't something on the market that I can find, so we need to, again, have that mixed across the board. So seniors can maybe downsize what they're looking for. New families can, upgrade a house and different things like that.
I think the three, and this is just my throwing this out there for what it's worth.
Curious.
The three different types of places or homes or things that I think would like check the box for the most amount of people is number one is if you take something similar to Champlain Park on Cumberland Head.
Yep.
Something similar to that, which was built back in the 1950s, right around the time of the Air Force Base. It's simple. Most of them are 3-bed, 1-bath, ranch homes, garage, slab. Those turn over and they get picked up quick.
Yep.
And
it's where my first home was.
Yeah, and Champlain Park is, to this day, is one of, like, if you list it, someone's going to buy it because it's a very in-demand place. But I said, if you can get something like that, which, again, single-level home, is great for someone buying their first home, it's great for someone downsizing. It hits both sides of the coin. That's number one. Number two would be any type of condo situation where you have similar interests, where people just don't want and I find that today's day and age, if you're a young professional, you, in my opinion, you work a lot, you do stuff, you don't have a lot of extra time, you're involved, you're doing things.
Don't want to mow the lawn.
Exactly. You don't want to mow the lawn, you don't want to fix the roof, you don't want to just, do all the external stuff. You don't want to plow and shovel and do all that. And then you couple that with someone older that's kind of like, I used to do that, now I'm good. I want to just chill and relax. So that's another one that hits both sides of the coin. So I think you have the Champlain Park aspect, you have some type of townhouse condo situation. And the third one would be some, we kind of look at homes that are probably going to sell, probably in that high 200,000 range, anywhere from like 275 to 300, 250 to 300. That is a little bit bigger, 3-bed, 2-bath, maybe you're probably looking at 1,800 square feet, similar to what they have down on Baker Road when you go off of Route 374. Yep. You get a lot of those because that's kind of your in-between. That's people moving up. Maybe they have families. Maybe they just want more space. Maybe they're in a better economic situation than they were when they're in their 20s. You have that middle ground home. I mean, any of those, you can take your pick. I think the biggest one, though, without that middle ground area, I think is because I think the seniors, if they sell and they go to those, the condos or the Champlain Park style homes, are going to free up those middle people to move into those.
Sure.
So that's something I've always thought for years. Like, that's all you don't need big spacious homes. You don't need these crazy things. Like, where you go to where you're going to make the biggest impact for the people that are in our area. And those are the ones that I know would, if you build those, they will be swiped up very quickly, which is good because that spurs, you want to have that. And it's not,
did you ever see the concept plan for Champlain Park?
Probably not.
Years and years. Next time you're in town hall, or anybody that's in that visits us in town hall, we have this beautiful image. I don't know if it's a watercolor, but it's one of the first pieces of concept art.
Okay.
And it's there. And Champlain Park was supposed to be like 3 times the size that it is today.
Okay.
So just imagine what that would have looked like.
So what-
and the hustle and bustle. And I don't think it's online.
Well, I just want to. So
But it's gorgeous, and it just gives you a sense of the vibrancy, and there's still a lot of opportunity for development on the Cumberland Head Peninsula.
I mean, yeah, that's all field.
And there's a lot of development opportunity in various locations throughout other areas of the town. I mean, there's some really wonderful. I mean, I think all of our hamlets are very special and unique, and each one of them provides such charming characteristics. From Katie'ville to Cliff Haven to Cumberland Head, as I like to say. Triangulate that. Lots of great different styles of living just between those three hamlets alone.
Yeah, I just, and again, all this stuff I believe will happen. Like I said, it just takes time, and I think people just have to have that kind of zoom out and just realize like it's not going to happen next week. It's not going to happen next year. But, again, if you just go back in time 10 years and what wasn't here 10 years ago. And then you kind of put in perspective like, oh, that's right. Like they didn't have that store, that restaurant, or that house, or that what's the one off Tom Miller was just built? Is it Northwood?
Northwood. Yeah.
Northwood. Yeah. So I mean, like that whole thing fairly new, but.
And what's interesting about the Northwood property is that style of housing, okay? Not just affordable housing, but that style of housing was not allowable really in the town center before we adopted this new smart growth plan.
That's awesome.
So there could be more infill development, more development in the future. So imagine there's a coffee shop down below, but there's apartments up above. So that's why we're really excited to see more opportunity for folks to live within the town center.
Well, that's the other thing too. Apartments, I mean, they're just as in demand as buying.
Yep.
So, like I said, we need both of those because our apartments are extremely low inventory, which is also, like I said, kind of a detriment. Have you found that people have not come to Plattsburgh because of the lack of homes? Are you finding that? I've seen it in one-off instances where someone may not come in because there's not enough in their mind, not enough to do or whatever. Some people come in and are looking for homes and they decide like the area's not for me and they move out. I mean, you're not going to catch everybody, but have you seen that as like a trend, or do you find that it's like very just kind of sporadic?
I hear about it anecdotally that it does happen from time to time. I think you would it would be a lie not to say that it never happens. I don't think it's an overwhelming majority, but I also think that occurs in other locations too. So it's not a uniquely Plattsburgh problem or North Country problem, but we need to be mindful of it, and we need to continue to stay focused on it to try to find some solutions.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle you face without this whole plan, like kind of like old school SWOT analysis? Like, is there anything that would be you know SWOT, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Strengths, weakness, opportunities. Yeah.
Threat. So what would be kind of the weakness or maybe the threat that you would say, like, it's good, but like this is something that we really have to hedge up against, or something that, or are you not? Like, I always look at if I do a SWOT analysis, I definitely focus on the strengths and opportunities. Sure. I'm very optimistic. I'm aware of the threats. I'm aware of because they help spur maybe decisions, but I don't run from them as like, I'm going to focus on them, because I feel like you put enough effort into the opportunities that any threat typically starts getting further away. But is there anything that you can focus on, or that you think is the biggest obstacle facing Plattsburgh to make this all happen? Or do you feel like, I feel like there's problems, but we can easily outrun any problem with just staying the course?
I think there's a couple of different things that I'd like to acknowledge. One is there's a tendency for any community to doubt our own opportunity and to, kind of downplay the good things that occur. We kind of just get into this like very self-doubting mindset. There are a lot of great things that are occurring. So we need to stay kind of calibrated into the good things that are occurring, not to say that there aren't negative things and that there aren't things that we need to work on. But let's talk about how we went out to the community and we're asking folks, what type of businesses would you like to see in Plattsburgh? And, there was a lot of buzz about Olive Garden, for example. And people were like, oh, I can't believe people want Olive Garden. We got these great restaurants like Arnie's, and Arnie's is a great restaurant. But there's a segment of the community that wants an Olive Garden. There's nothing wrong with either one of those. But the other part to it too that we tell people is that information was captured by community members, and we don't choose whether Olive Garden comes here at the end of the day either. So, where's the threat or the weaknesses? This is the same for any community. Those that choose not to invest in the community. But we also think that it's one of our biggest strengths. We can demonstrate to people that we have positioned ourselves and positioned them for success by investing in infrastructure, by having an affordable place to do business, a great quality of life. We firmly believe that the town of Plattsburgh, in particular, is a great place to live, work, and play. We're investing in our, in our recreation. So when you go through all of those types of things, threats and weaknesses, I think, are determined mainly by the outsiders of what the situation is. And I think that we can educate individual. It's the lack of education that is the threat. It's the lack of education that is the weakness. And that's why we're very dogged about not doing things in a vacuum. This plan, the Smart Growth Plan that generated the Developer's Guide, we had what's called a PAC. And it's a community PAC where members from a cross section of the community came together. And when Uno's was still open, we had that back room, and we had tons of people. I think we had 100 plus people come out and share their opinions and thoughts, and we engaged with business leaders within the town center. So we really don't leave any stone unturned. And that's why we want people to recognize that it's not going to happen immediately. And if we allow doubt and negativity to set in, then yeah, things will become stagnant. We could stop trying to develop the community, but at the same time, there are going to be things within the community that are going to change that are outside of our factors. Sadly, and I think it's important to own, Sterix, for example, and Novabus, both of those decisions were made in boardrooms that are not here in the town of Plattsburgh. There are corporate boardrooms outside of out of that area. And the workforce of those two businesses are incredible. One of the most toured businesses that I have had the great opportunity over these last 8 years to do was to tour Novabus. I know many, many, many people there. Talented people. Yeah. Any business would be lucky to have them. And I think what we need to continue to focus is, as heart-wrenching and a blow to them, is the community overall is going to do okay, but we also need to stay focused to provide opportunities for transition for them. No one wants to ever have to make those. I'm sad that they have to make those transitions some way, somehow in the future, and there's a lot of play. But it's also about partnership too. Collaborating with the Chamber of Commerce, collaborating with Clinton County Ledge, collaborating with our state partners, Assemblyman Jones, Senator Steck, the Development Corporation and stuff, and remaining dogged in our approach that every single day we have to work in multiple sectors, having a mixed economy, because just like the Air Force Base, if all we were focused on was the Air Force Base, and then when the Air Force Base left and we just said, well, I guess it's over, then we wouldn't see some of the development that's occurring now. So we need to continue to stay dogged about all that.
Have you ever heard the term, "You're never an expert in your own backyard"? That's what I always feel like too. When you mentioned that about people not like realizing the talent that is around here, and I think just realizing like, hey, just don't get in the way of some people because they can do some incredible things. And I think that's just, a lot of people in the North Country, I think, can kind of beat that drum pretty good. Meaning that, there's a lot of talent around here, and I think there's a lot of people that are just roll up your sleeves, get stuff done, and I think, especially like I said, the Air Force Base is a perfect example. And there's definitely some leaders still around from that time too that like haven't stopped moving. Again, obviously Gary's the one I always, kind of look at, but there's so many. But again, you kind of look at the thing. Anything that's happened, everything happens in cycles. Like you get punched in the face every handful of years with something, and then you just make it out of it. Ice storm, make it out of it. 9/11, you make out of it. The housing crisis, make it out of that. So it's a very resilient area, but I also think that we do a good job buffering against the big the knockout punch. Yeah. You get slugged, but like I said, maybe it's only in the third round. Like we're still standing.
It's one of the things I learned about the North Country immediately because I came on the heels of the ice storm. Came in '99. Came on the heels of really when the Air Force Base was shuttering, right?
Yeah.
And I have seen the resiliency. I have bared witness. I've bared witness to the resiliency of when a person loses a house to a fire and how this community comes together, right? Doing the meal trains and, or if someone's sick. And I mean, we are a very compassionate and caring community in so many regards. And we're going to own our future, but we need to continue to plan for it. And we need to continue to work that plan in a manner that every single day someone is doing a little bit of something because many hands make light work.
Mike, since you took office, what's the biggest change that you feel that you've made? Like you as an individual. Anything that's jumped out, whether it's leadership skills, communication skills, confidence, overcoming doubt. Is there anything that you can point to? You're like, you know what? I struggled with this 8 years ago, and I think I'm pretty damn good at it now, or better.
Yeah.
Or anything that has surprised you about yourself over the last handful of years?
I'm a rather impatient person.
Okay.
Because I like to see results. So I've jokingly said that government works at glacial speed. So I've had to expect within projects that we undertake that the bureaucracy, not even town bureaucracy, right? The different layers, the county, the state, the feds, just the larger systems at play, and just be a little bit more patient, take an extra deep breath, and I think my patience has gotten a little bit better, but my passion has increased because I know that I need even more passion to make up for the patience that I have to give in to get it there, right? Because it's so easy where you can become defeated and be like, oh, this is never going to happen. Mm-hmm. This is taken forever. Great example is the Battlefield Memorial Gateway project that we're working on with the Clinton County American Legion Group. We kicked it off in 2017, and a number of things occurred, and then COVID, and a lot of people are like, oh, this is never going to take place. Well, just earlier this year, we hit the groundbreaking. And we're just that is just moving at such a fast pace, and phase 1 will be done by the end of this year, and I don't want to steal too much time on that, but if it wasn't for patience and resolve of passion, so many people could have just said, oh, I guess this isn't in the cards.
Where do you think that comes from, the passion?
To me, again, it's personally, I grew up with a lot of people that were involved in church and other civic groups. I remember my Aunt Hazel. She lived to the wise old age of 103. And she used to take me to her church all the time, and that's where the servant leadership came in. They had a soup kitchen, and they did all kinds of meals for seniors. And this was without Meals on Wheels. This was just people in the congregation and stuff. And she just imparted that there's so much more to life than how you live. It's making sure that the people around you are living well, right? That are taken care of. My grandfather was a veteran. I mean, he imparted so many words of wisdom to me. I invoke him regularly when I'm talking and stuff. He had a lot of what I call papa-isms. And family inspires me, but my community inspires me too, because there are a lot of communities, and I have friends that have moved all over the place, and some communities have not embraced them, and they're great people. It's just they're very guarded, and most people think of the North Country as it's just a bunch of North Country natives. There's a lot of transplants here in the North Country. I'm a very proud transplant, but I like to say that I'm a transplant that has really, really deep roots now.
Yeah. Let's say you've
really deep roots.
Okay, so we did this the other day. I thought this was fun. You would listen to the Billy episode.
I listened to it. I was dying to know if we were going to do a couple of these rounds.
I think this is fun. Not because I don't want to talk about this, but I had so much fun doing it with Billy because they're just like off the wall. I don't even know half these questions. They've been sitting here, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start pulling these out. I think this is only the third person. You're the third person that I pulled these out on. So, So Billy chose the whimsical and off the wall. We have personal, whimsical, off the wall, industry expertise, and great closer questions. And I know some of them we can redo, or if you just want me to have dealer's choice, I can just go through and ask you.
Dealer's choice.
Okay. So what's the best compliment you've ever gotten?
Nicest compliment? That's a really good question. Probably something about humor. I try to. I like to think I'm somewhat witty, and
saw those comic specials on Netflix rubbing off.
Yeah, no, and I think I was in it like in some type of engagement, and someone said, "Oh, you're kind of funny," and it was just it was so it didn't seem like a throwaway, but I just appreciated it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is a good one. What's an insult you've received that you're proud of?
Ginger.
Okay. All right. I love it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite holiday movie, and what does that say about you? I'm just reading how they have it.
Yeah, wow.
You can just do what's your favorite holiday movie.
No, so my wife and I every single year watch It's a White Christmas.
Okay. Which one's?
With Danny Kaye and that whole group. Of course, you put me on the spot to name all the actors.
No,
but
that's fine.
and we watched that one. And what I find hilarious about it, and there's one particular line.
Is this it? White Christmas?
Yep.
Okay.
And one of my
I've ever seen this.
One of my favorite lines in the movie is, it's something to the effect of, it's like trying to find a Democrat in Vermont. And what is hilarious about that is, when this movie came out, it was Vermont was, really kind of a Republican, stronghold. And now you would often think of, Vermont as being a very much more New England liberal state and stuff like that. So it's just fun, good music. And again, it's very comical too. There's a lot of witty lines and stuff like that. So Bill Crosby, Danny Kaye.
My favorite is the Christmas Vacation. So, but they do make reference to this, but I'm just learning now.
That would probably be a close second.
That probably gets played for about 4 weeks in our house, maybe 4 times a week. Just randomly, we'll just pop it on, background music or background sound. What's been your least favorite job to date?
My least favorite job.
I'd say most favorite, but I'm assuming it's probably this now or no? Did you have something?
Yeah, no, this is my favorite job.
Okay. So I'm just kind of...
My least favorite job was one of my earliest jobs was I picked weeds, okay, out of a cranberry bog. I worked for a farmer because I grew up in an agricultural area where cranberry bogs were the agriculture, and for 8 hours a day, hunched over, we picked weeds out of the cranberry bog.
Do you feel that there was a better way to do that than hunched over for 8 hours a day picking weeds? Like, could there have been a better, more efficient system than that? At the time, probably not.
No, there were some systems, but so not to get too technical, but there's dry harvesting cranberry bogs and wet harvesting cranberry bogs, and to protect the vines and the way that they grew up, you needed to have people like go into the bogs and like pick the weeds out, and it was backbreaking. And I was a teenager, and I worked for my dad's general construction company, and thinking working with your father could be a crap job sometimes. So
I honestly did not expect that.
Yeah, see, there you go,
a weed picker. Actually, I'm going to ask the next 3 because I think these are all good. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Travel more.
Okay, I like that. Any particular reason? Did you not travel enough, or do you just think that you can always travel more? I
had a lot of opportunity when I was younger to travel a lot. I wish I had done study abroad, even though I had traveled internationally a lot. And yeah, I think that travel is just one of those really powerful things. Is I think you have a deeper appreciation from where you are and where you come from. But I think there's so much more to the world and people. And when you travel, you learn a lot about yourself in that too.
Love it. Who's the 3 most influential people in your life?
Living, or can they?
You pick. The 3 most influential.
The 3 most influential people in no particular order would probably be my Aunt Hazel, who I've referenced, my grandfather, and then my noni, who is my mother's mother.
Okay.
Yeah, and she lived with us growing up.
Is there? And I guess the only reason I'm saying this, that I'm assuming all those folks are either older or have passed.
2 of them have passed. One of them's still living.
Older individual.
Older. Yeah.
So was there something? I mean, again, did you spend a lot of time with older folks when you were younger, or just like again impact of just having, like you said, someone living with you that was older, and how?
Yeah. So I'm an only child, and often what happened is when I was growing up, I would be in the presence of these individuals. Because if they were taking me, taking places or shuttle pucking around and stuff, my Aunt Hazel did not live with us. My papa in Noni lived in an in-law apartment downstairs from me. And I have to say this in case any of my cousins listen. I am the favorite grandchild. We share a birthday, December 26th, so everybody should know that. If that's the one takeaway from this podcast, people need to know I'm the favorite grandchild. But, I was very fortunate to have grandparents living right downstairs.
Yeah.
And so she lives with my mother, and I think as far as wit goes, she's a very, very witty, but also a very direct person. Sometimes you there's a joke about seniors that they get to a certain age and they'll say whatever they want to say. She's been doing that all her life, and that's what I love about her.
What does your morning routine look like?
It's pretty basic. I'm a try to get out of the house as quickly as possible type of guy. In the morning, it's more the routine about the dogs than anything. And then most days I go someplace to get a cup of coffee versus making it myself. And the reason I've always done that is I'm not a morning person. So it makes me be kind to another human being because I'm reliant on that cup of coffee.
Because you used to go to Dunkin' Donuts and know a lot. Do you mix it up? Do you...
Dunkin's closest to work,
Yep.
So I usually will go there. I'll go to, but if I have a meeting somewhere else in town or in the region, I'll pop into different shops. Yep.
What kind of? I know we've talked about this before. So because drink, it's always black, right? Or do you?
Typically black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any specific coffee that you like? Style that you like? I'm not going to ask you where you like because I mean there's a lot of good places. I don't want to single anybody out, but do you any type of bean, any type of specific roast, any type of certain style? If you had a go-to,
In all honesty, I'm not a huge fan on heavy dark roasts.
Okay.
I'll drink it. It's not my favorite, and I think part of why I prefer a little bit of a light roast is I just consume a lot of coffee, and I have found that the dark roasts after a while, like it's just too much acid, and I just don't feel great. One of the things you'll see today is I'm not actually drinking a cup of coffee today. I'm trying to drink more water.
Yeah.
And
I was actually shocked you didn't take us up on coffee.
Yeah, and but there are tons of great coffee locations around here, and Dunkin' again is largely and it's a New England thing, right? Growing up in Massachusetts, Dunkin' was the place.
Have you ever seen the SNL skit when it had
Yes.
Which one was it? Casey Affleck. That's such a great skit. But if anybody hasn't seen it, just type in like SNL Dunkin' Donuts or something. It's pretty funny. Okay, so we'll go about another 5-10 minutes. I got some questions I think that will be good. Ask Billy this, but I would love two of these. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Ireland.
Okay. So anything specific or anywhere specific in Ireland?
Anywhere that falls within the Ring of Kerry. It reminds.
Was your family from Kerry? Did you have any family from that area?
We have. I had some family from Kerry in County Cork, and so yeah.
So actually, this is total fun fact. So my grandfather grew up just a little bit like northeast of Killarney.
Okay.
So I've been around the Ring of Kerry, and
well, and that was the third place I was going to say was we've got some family there. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to. So I think right now, because I saw his post the other day, Joel Wood is over there right now, and he is down in Kerry. And so County Kerry is one of my favorite places on earth. So again, like I said, obviously very nostalgic. Went there with my grandfather, but I think whatever, it's not showing up. But I think Kerry. Well, we're trying to work through this right now. Trying to get some pictures up here. Whatever. Kerry, if people don't know in Ireland, it is the stereotypical Irish. Besides, like maybe the Cliffs of Moher. Like besides that, it's pretty much as Irish as you can get.
Yeah, it's the postcard image of Ireland.
It's like the farm country. It's like when you don't want green, just go to County Kerry. Yeah. It is absolutely gorgeous.
But there are portions along the Ring of Kerry though that give you vibes of the Adirondacks. You know, with some of the mountains and in the green and the views. I'm not saying one for one, but it just
I know
gives
what you're
you
saying. Yeah. No, I know. Like, I mean, even stuff like this. Like when you start going through like the beaches and like I said, it's sunny every day and it's overcast every day. Like when you're in Ireland, it just happens. But I love that. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
I listen. I like I said, I listen to Billy's and yours podcast, so I'll pick someone else. FDR.
Okay. I mean, similar. So Billy also picked a president.
Yeah, I'd pick FDR. Largely, there's an individual that served multiple terms. A lot was achieved. A lot of things that are still well debated, whether or not what the benefits and costs.
He was Social Security, right?
Yeah, and then so FDR.
Okay, that's cool. If you had to write a book tomorrow, what would you write about? I asked Billy that too, but I still think
is it any topic or is it a?
If you just write a book, could be a kid's book, could be an autobiography, could be a book on coffee.
I would probably intertwine the topic of dyslexia.
Okay. You have dyslexia.
I do have dyslexia.
Yeah.
And because that way I could probably do a bunch of different chapters on different topics, and I would probably make it an approach of a dyslexic, a different perspective.
I guess my only question is like, how does dyslexia, I can't even say, I have a problem with saying dyslexia. So
say it 5 times fast.
I can't even say, I'm sure I can't even say the first word, but dyslexia, I don't know why it sounds really weird with me saying that, but I think I've developed that over time. I never had an issue when I was a kid, and now I regularly, like I'm saying almost weekly, I'm catching myself. I'm like, what am I looking at? And I'm switching letters and I'm reading stuff wrong. And can you grow into that? Or is it something you always have? Or is it something that just maybe gets amplified? I know I have a version of, I don't know what level of severity it is. I don't really know much about it, except I know that I have a lot of dyslexic tendencies when I'm reading and writing.
I couldn't say well enough to define. I would probably say that you've probably had that all your life. You probably have things that are exacerbating it more now. I have found in my own life that when I'm doing a million things, it's a million times more prevalent, right?
Okay. I think
so. It's not debilitating. It's
No.
just you get. And I also think it's a super strength of mine too, because it allows me and forces me to see things from a different perspective, and I have really come to appreciate that. I think I ask different questions from time to time. I seek out different answers and different pathways forward, where a lot of people are much more linear. And to me, it's not about this is the way that you do it. It's about how you get there as well, because there's so many different ways to get to a solution. And that's why I have a real passion for being solution focused. The solution is, here's the problem. Okay. In local government, any government, saying no is easy, right? Oh, no, we can't do that. Well, saying yes, you have to be held accountable, and then you have to find a way to get it done. Well, my dyslexia has allowed me to kind of say, okay, yep, as Gary Douglas would say, and I learned this from him, is no should be a pause to yes, or no can be a pause to yes. And the way that I look at it is, yeah, we may not be able to do this right now, but let's see how we can find a way to it.
Do you have time? Do you build into your day or build into just like a week where you just have like some free time? It's like one of the things I tried to focus on more over the last year and a half, the 2 years, when a lot of things are coming at me, professionally, personally, just like life's busy and the calendar's full and the day's full. It's really trying to kind of opposite is like say no to stuff and clear out my calendar so I have more what I call free time. I've heard the term white space, where I have nothing in my calendar, and I try to, whether it's reading or focusing on something or trying to just think. I want to say think better or think differently, where it's like, okay, pause, think about this, and don't just like jump on an answer, but really try to marinate and develop and question why I made that decision. And I find over the last 2 years, my decision making has gotten better. I've gotten more decisive on things. I've also expanded, I would say my neurological muscle of like, I've developed thoughts over the last 2 years that I've never would have developed before, purely by just giving myself time to just think a little bit more deeper on a topic versus just being like, go, go, go. And I find it, those surface level decisions are fine, but I feel like I've made more progress in the last 2 years about like, okay, not making as many surface level decisions, but going deeper on a handful of decisions and trying to really get to like the meat of that decision versus just kind of an off the whim thing. And I think there's a place for both, but I've developed that more in my life. I don't know. Have you?
Yeah, I leverage that from time to time, but one of the things that I like in it, if there's something that, there are many things that I'm sure that drive my team at the town crazy, and I'm sure some of them will listen to this and laugh at things that I've said. So shout out to you. Thank you for what you do and what you deal with me. And I mean that sincerely, but I love a good pickup meeting. I'm one of those people, like if there's a bunch of people that are meeting, I'll just kind of insert myself, not to micromanage, because I love the connective tissue, finding the connective tissue of what they're talking about.
Okay, yep.
It is connected to something larger and bigger than what's going on, and 8 times, 9 times out of 10, I will walk away from there learning something and going, something, that topic was related to something maybe 3 hours ago or 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago. And I just love finding out how things kind of interconnect with that. And so I take joy in that. And the other part to it is, yeah, probably more in pockets though. The one thing that I'm well known for is when I get home, I need 15 minutes.
Okay.
That's probably about the level. The first 15 minutes that I get at home, I want to decompress. I want to sit my ass down. I want to just.
So this is like alone time.
It's no like if Olivia's home, the dogs, and it just. I just don't. I don't want to engage in anything that is
stimulating,
or anything of real substance, right? Like just I just for 15 minutes, because I imagine what you do in a similar way is at work, much of what we do is, and it's mental gymnastics. It's constantly switching from topic to topic, decision, yes, no. I compare my position to a traffic cop, right? It's really trying to keep things moving and stuff like that. So for that first 15 minutes, I just want to bring down. Sometimes, I may jump on YouTube and watch news or something. I may be doing something within that 15 minutes, but it's 15 minutes of...
It's like mindless, like...
Yes, mindless.
Yeah.
It has. There's no substance to it. There's no, it's not going to make or break my day. But, Olivia will often knows she's not going to say, "How's your day?" in that 15 minutes or so. It's just give me that 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's good. 3 more.
Okay.
3 more. Yeah, we'll be good. Okay. I want to get away from professional stuff because we've done most of those. Not that they're bad.
You can. Hey, listen. I'm an open book. I
want to like
personal or professional. I'll lay it out
No,
there.
but okay. Well, I'll do this one. I'm going to go to jump back. What time of day do you get your best work done?
Late afternoon to evening.
Okay. Any reason why you think that?
I'm caffeinated.
Okay. She's not a morning person, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm caffeinated, and I think the other part to it is there's just kind of a built-in inertia that just kind of starts, and I don't find that my energy level doesn't, like when I'm done for the day, it doesn't just kind of snap off like some people do. But I do think that the afternoon into the late evening, and it also has to do with where I worked at the college. I mean, for example, I used to advise student government, and those meetings didn't start until 10:15 at night. So for years, I was working late. I structure my day mornings. I try not to see people. I say see people, like meaning out of the office kind of stuff. Like I work, the girls here, but I get my most energy kind of in that mid to late morning. And then I actually get a lull. Like, I'll be honest, like right now is one of my lulls in the day, which I do like doing podcasts because it's kind of something I can just like focus on a person and talk. But I typically lose steam about mid-afternoon. But if it's one of those where I'm like working late, or I have times where I'm like, I can do a lot of stuff from like 5 o'clock to like 10, 11 o'clock at night if I'm uninterrupted, because I just get in a flow. And I think those are the 2 times that I get interrupted the least. Yeah.
So that's why I don't know.
I like different styles of work. Like I was joking about the pickup meetings. I love going into the office on the weekends.
Same.
I love it. I'm thrown on a podcast. I'm thrown on Pandora, whatever it is, and just getting into whatever it is. And often, like, I'll bring Valcor, the Golden, with me, and she'll run around for a little bit, and then that space. So I like having different types of work environments versus just one that is very repetitive.
Just this building alone, and this was a couple weeks ago. I was here on a Sunday for a large amount of time, maybe 8 to 10 hours, and I didn't leave. So I brought a couple snacks, whatever. I got everything I need here. I listened to music the whole time, or a podcast, just kind of had in my pocket. I was running around doing a million things, but it was nice because nobody texted me, nobody called me, nobody was walking in. It was like my time to myself, but I got a lot done because I'm like, and I knew I had time to get a lot of stuff done. So I didn't feel pressured. I didn't feel rushed. I was like, I kind of built out like, this is what I want to get done today. I know I can get it all done, and let me just relax and just get it done. Not feel like I'm rushing through the day. It's weird because I'm like you. I find calm in work, and people that don't like their job or don't like what they do, I think don't understand that. But I think that people that do like their work and they get labeled a workaholic, I think you're workaholic in your eyes. But for us, a lot of it, that's like play. It's fun. It's stimulating. It's challenging. And I find it's like doing a puzzle as a kid, but I get to do it in real life. Bigger stakes and more responsibility, but I like doing that. And sometimes I feel out of place when I'm just sitting. Yep. So to come in and just have like free reign to be like, I just get to like work, even though it's usually on business stuff, but it's still fun. Okay. Last 2 questions. I'm going to piggyback. I said, what did I say? 3 questions. I'm going to do 4. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite color?
Green.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
And then 3. You're going to answer one of these questions, but I'm going to give you 3 options on how you want to answer this. So it's which 3 of these items would you recommend to people? You can either say books, movies, or podcasts. Pick one of those and give me 3 of one. So books, movies, or podcasts.
So I can.
You could do 9 if you wanted, but I figured for.
Oh, you want specific.
So if you said what these 3 books I recommend, or these 3 movies, or these 3 podcasts, so you can go either direction, kind of pick a door, and then give me 3 of whatever that is.
Okay, so you're asking me to do math and remember titles.
Or
at the same time.
or if you wanted to, you could just be, can I do one of each? That'd be fine too.
Okay, maybe I'll do that. Book, The Radical Leap.
Okay.
The name I think it's Farber. It's great book, a foundational book that I go back to.
Steve Farber.
Yep, Steve Farber. Great book.
So, movie.
I'm gonna go a B movie. Hard to find. I think you can actually find it on YouTube in its full version. It is. So years ago, I thought I was going to go in the track of doing film when I first went to college. It's called The Wizard of Speed and Time. The Wizard of Speed and Time. And this is a deep cut here.
This is deep cuts only. So what is this? The Wizard?
The Wizard of Speed and Time. And the general concept of it is this guy wants to make a movie. This is so wild. He can't get he basically kind of gets, the okay to do this movie, but he needs to make a movie, but it's about making a movie within the movie. It's this weird thing, and there's stop animation in it, but there's people as part of stop animation, and it's cool. It's a lot of really, really neat stuff.
I've never heard of it, and I don't recognize a single person. But The Wizard of Speed and Time.
Yeah, it's one of the few movies that I still have that why I have not given up my VCR.
Wow, that's amazing.
Truly, and I'm not watching it every year.
Between being a weed picker and a Wizard of Speed and Time,
the Wizard of Speed
Time. Never in a million years would I've gotten either of those. And then last one, podcast.
I'll throw Kathleen Madigan out there again. Comedian. She's got a podcast. Just started getting into it, and it's I like going a little bit deeper with some of the comedians and stuff, because you get a little bit more of their personality, and they're riffing off of stuff that it's not like a set, right? Mm-hmm. You can kind of fall into somebody. So I haven't honestly listened to a ton of them, but it's and then as an extra bonus point, the Galen Tremblay Show, specifically
episode 245 of Michael Cashman. So Mike, we'll wrap it up there. And if people have listened all the way to the end, I appreciate the plug of the podcast. But anything you want to, any parting words, anything you want to, obviously we talked a lot about this, kind of with the, I want to, investment opportunities. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So investment opportunities in town of Plattsburgh, but anything you want to leave the audience with, things to look forward to, things that you want them to, surveys you want them to take, anything that you can kind of plug that would be of value to. Be selfish, of value to the town of Plattsburgh, or just Michael. Sure.
I'll leave you with 3 quick things. First and foremost, if you see me out in public and we don't really know each other, introduce yourself. I'd love to get to meet you. 2, if you hear a rumor or you have a concern or something like that, reach out. Nothing drives me crazier than people think they know what they know. I'm happy to provide some clarity and some insight. And 3, at the end of the show, just take a moment, and wherever you're at, take a moment to appreciate where we live, because we may not be perfect, and things may not be perfect, but we live in an incredible place, the North Country, with incredible people, and those of you listening are part of that collection of great things. And just thanks for the time.
Love it. All right, that's it. Episode 245. We're out. Thank you for listening to the Galen Trombley Show. Be sure to subscribe, review, and share the episode. You can follow me on all social platforms at Galen Trombley. Thanks for listening.